This is Disney Travel Tales, a trip report show helping you to become an expert at navigating your next Disney vacation. Join me every Friday for all things Disney related. Not traveling to Disney anytime soon? Never fear, we are still the show for you. Sit back, relax, and immerse yourself in someone else's trip. All the joy, none of the stress. All right, if you're ready, let's get to today's show. Today on the show, I am here with my guest, Emily, and she just got back from a pretty amazing Disney World vacation that she's going to share with us. How are you this morning, Emily?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with Disney vacations?
Sure. So my name's Emily. So I grew up going to Disney, same with my husband. But to be honest, we hadn't gone to Disney for over 20 years. So we had our kids. And then we decided to go in 2022, in early 2022, and take our two kids. And at first, my husband and I were surprised, like how much we had fun. We were kind of delaying it because we hadn't been there for so long. But really, we shouldn't have been surprised. We love theme parks and we love keeping busy on vacations. We're not really the people, especially with little kids, that you can just sit and relax and there's always something to do at Disney. So now since 2022, we've been 4 times and we will be going again for spring break in April this year. So now you can say we are a full-blown Disney family. I think my kids don't realize we keep telling them, like, you're so lucky we keep going. They just think it's normal. And we're like, it's not normal.
Right.
We just keep going. But we all just love it so much. And like I said, there's always something going on, which I think makes Disney really magical and at every age, right? It's so fun, whether you're with the kids or not. One of the things my husband and I keep joking that one of these days we have to go alone, but I think the kids would have a really hard time with us not taking them. We'd have to make it up to them, right, in other ways. But because we always go to Disney in the last few years, family and friends have always asked us for Disney tips and tricks that we've done, whether they're planning a trip, have thought about planning one or going, or they had not a great time, because if you don't have that plan or know a little bit about it, you can't really go to Disney anymore just on a whim as easily as maybe before. So in the summer, last summer, I actually stepped back from my corporate career, decided to stay home with my kids. And I have an issue with staying busy, really overly busy, because, staying home with kids and coaching their sports teams doesn't keep you busy enough. I decided to start an Instagram page for sharing those tips and tricks and hacks that we got asked from our family friends all the time. So around Labor Day last year, I started the Take 'em to Diz Instagram page because I have a few hours a week just to work on it, again, keeping busy. But it's been really, really fun sharing those tips, tricks, and hacks of taking your family to Disney. It's been a great creative outlet for me to share all the reels and the posts, but it's been really fun hearing all these other people, how the tips have been helping them and how they're sharing it with their family and friends. So that's made it really, really special. And so just within the short 6 months time, it's been really, really fun.
Yeah, you have a great page. Everyone should go check it out. I love watching your reels, and you do have really, really great tips.
Thank you.
It's so funny. There was an article that came out on the Washington Post about how you need to pay for a class to go to Disney.
Yeah.
And I was like, while Disney is intense, you don't have to pay for a class to go to Disney.
Yeah. Right. You just have to have some planning, or if there's so many Instagram pages like yours is great too, right? So if you go out there and look, there's so many people sharing their tips and tricks. If you just put a little time.
Exactly.
Right?
There's tons of resources out there that you don't have to pay for. But yeah.
Yes.
How
exactly.
fun. I love that. Yeah. And you and your husband definitely need to sneak away. Just don't tell your kids where you're going.
Exactly. We'll bring them back some toys. They'll be fine.
Yeah. Be like, we're going to a really boring place that you would hate.
Yeah, exactly. It's for work.
Yeah, it's for work. That always works.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about this trip. What were your travel dates and who did you travel with?
So we were gone the first week of February. We were gone for 7 days, 6 nights, and we stayed at the Disney Riviera. And we were there. It was my husband, myself, my daughter who's 6 years old, and my son who's 3 years old.
What type of
Oh,
What
go
type
for
of
it.
room did y'all have at the Riviera?
We had a standard studio. So we actually stayed there last January as well. This was February, but last January we did the preferred view room. Luckily, we got fireworks view from that, but usually at the Riviera, the preferred view doesn't have fireworks. So this time we were like, you know what, we're just going to do the standard view because you still get fireworks, which we did. Last time we did get a skyliner and a firework view, which is really cool. But even in the standard view, you could see Magic Kingdom and Epcot fireworks, which is really, really cool. And we actually, for those last two trips, we rented DVC points, which is when we've done trips where we didn't rent points. We stayed at Animal Kingdom and Pop Century and Coronado Springs without renting. But we do really like, especially if we know in advance that we're going to go somewhere, it's a great way to save some extra money too by renting those.
Absolutely. Yeah, and what's so funny about Riviera is people don't realize the standard view is the better view.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't need to spend extra money.
No.
Because if not, you're getting the pool view and all this. And those are pretty, but it's so much more fun to sit on the balcony and watch fireworks. And we're not a family that always stays till fireworks. Having little kids, we rope drop more unless we have an extended evening hours or a night event. We don't even take a break back at the room. We just keep going. One of the main reasons is because my kids, ever since they were little, as soon as you put them on transportation like a bus or something, they'll fall asleep. So they'll be asleep before you get to the resort, and then you're like, well, that was your power nap. You're not going to go back down. So we've always stayed. My youngest, he was 16 months old when we first went. So he was always just taking naps in the stroller. My oldest can just rest. Even though she's 6, we still take a stroller, right? Because I would say if they can fit in it, bring it. You walk about 10 miles a day, you need to bring that stroller. Even though we don't use one really at home with them being 3 or 6, we still always bring one with. But being that we don't watch fireworks in the park all the time, and we test out their moods, right? A lot of times my husband and I will put them down and we'll sit on the balcony and have a drink and usually dive into that popcorn bucket that we've had since the park. And we'll sit and watch some of those fireworks, which is really, really nice.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do. If you have the chance to do it, it's so great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a great way to end your day relaxing and with that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm assuming because y'all are in Michigan, you flew to Florida.
We did. So we flew to Florida. We always fly out of O'Hare, just the easier, big airport. We're used to doing that too. But we always try to take an earlier airport or air flight so that we're there most of the day. Typically, we go and we'll do the pool unless it's cold, and then we do Disney Springs. But when we do get there, we do Mears Connect. It's the first time we've used Mears Connect. And I know that sometimes it can take a little while to get to your resort, depending on what it is, but it's so cost effective that we always debate private transportation. And then we thought, well, we're the family that likes to buy Genie Plus all the time, and we're just always like, well, let's balance this out. Like, you save a lot of money, and that can go towards something else just for that little bit of time. Now, when we have shorter trips, or if my husband and I go and we were only there for like 2 nights, we might not take Mears, right? Because it just takes that much more time. But with the kids, they get excited. My kids like the transportation probably as much as rides, I always joke.
Right.
So when they're like, we get to take a bus to the hotel, like, they love it. So that's one of the easy things for them to love too. So
that's so funny. My kids were so excited the first time we went to Disney and they got to ride a bus.
Yeah. I know. We're always like, what do you guys want to do when we go back? We'll ask them, like, what rides do you want? They're like, the Skyliner, the monorail. I'm like, okay, but there's rides too.
Right? They're so funny.
Yeah.
Because those are rides.
They're easily entertained, I guess, right?
Absolutely. So what did y'all do when y'all first arrived at your resort?
So this week that we were there, it was actually fairly cold. So that we've gone 2 other January trips, and this was beginning of February. And so there's usually some days that are colder, and then you've got some days that are 70s to 80s. This whole week was going to be like mid 60s, barely 70. The day we got there, it was 75. So we thought, okay, we're going to get there. I packed an extra bag that just had the pool stuff in there so we could change before our room got ready. And we did the pool for a few hours until our room was ready around 3 o'clock. And we always get groceries delivered to our room too. So I always do Instacart before. We've done garden grocer as well before. But so I knew that was coming around that time. So we did the pool and mobile ordered Primo Piata food so we could eat that before the kids got all wet. And then went up to the room and showered and then got ready for the rest of the day. But the kids just loved. Then my oldest calls it a water park at Riviera. And I'm like, no, it is kind of like a water park. So the splash pad and all the water slides and then the big water slide. But I always have to remind her, it's not a water park. It's just a pool. But that's one of the best things I think about Disney resorts is the pools are just amazing. So that is also like a great thing where you don't always just find on other vacations of water slides and things like that at your resort pool.
For sure. And the slide at Riviera is so fun.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of the best
first
ones.
time my youngest would go on it, and obviously my husband would go up or I'd catch and vice versa. But so it was fun. So then he just kept calling it the big slide and just wanted to keep going and going.
That's so fun. Yeah. And just for everyone listening, pools at Disney are heated to a comfortable temperature. So it's not like you're getting in ice cold water.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's around 82 degrees, which is really nice. I will say later in our trip, when it got colder and we were trying to do some other pool days, the heater broke.
Oh, no.
So it did make it a little bit colder. So we had to tell the kids, I don't know if we can go in, because even when it's 60 out and it's usually warmer in the pool, we're like,
yeah,
it's going to be real cold. So
Florida just could not handle that much cold.
No, exactly.
So what'd y'all do after y'all swam?
So one of the things that we knew ahead of time that we were going to do, because as I mentioned, we're going back for spring break, is we knew we were going to convert our date-based tickets to annual passes, which we had never had before, but we did the math, and it's crazy because Disney prices, I'm sure a lot of you know, they changed based off when you're going. So our 4-day park tickets that we originally had for February was about the same cost of 2 days at spring break. And so that was just crazy to us when we were doing the math. And then we started, and this wasn't even a park hopper ticket, just base. And so we started to look at the math, and it was $100 more just to have annual passes than what we would have been paying. So we thought, let's just convert it. So what we decided to do after we got ready and unpacked, we went over to Epcot. We actually asked if we could convert those annual passes at the Riviera, which they checked, but since we were renting points, they couldn't do it there. So we just went to Epcot. Very easy once you get to customer service, convert it, which I think is a great tip if you're ever thinking about it, is because if you are a non-Florida resident, you have to pay all of that up front, and you have to get the most expensive pass. So if you're converting your park tickets, if you've already kind of paid for the ones that you've had, that goes towards your payment of your annual pass, which makes it a lot, I say it's still expensive, but it does help, right, with that burden of having to pay everything, especially for 4. And the one thing is kids are the same cost as an adult. So even though I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, they were the same price as my husband and I for that annual pass. So it really does help. But it was fun because we've never had them, and it gave us such flexibility with this trip that we're not used to having. So we went, once we had that, we went into Epcot. And we got the annual pass magnet because the line wasn't so good. I'm like, hey, we're annual passes now. Holders, let's do that. And then my kids were starting to crash a little bit. So my husband and I tried a few food booths for the Festival of the Arts, and then headed back up the Skyliner back to the hotel so that the kids could get some rest, since we left our house around like 4:15 in that morning.
Oh,
so it was a long day for our kids, right? So, but they're troopers. We do it a lot. But you just need to, keep an eye on the kids and make sure they don't go past the tired. So
yeah, you just have to manage the day. We've done. I love getting there early. It's personally my favorite way to go to Disney. You just have to be realistic about that first day.
Yes, exactly. If not, the second day gets a little tricky, right? Because then they start hitting that wall too.
Yeah, the rest of your trip can be pretty bad if you just kind of take it easy. But that's really fun that y'all became annual pass holders. Yeah,
so it's exciting. So that's where then we keep thinking, we got to make some more trips now that it's free.
Yeah, you have to make it worth it.
Yeah.
That's great. So what'd y'all do after all of that fun?
So the next day, we actually had our Magic Kingdom day, and it was cold. It was 60s, and it was supposed to be raining most of the day. So we did buy Genie Plus that morning, which we always tend to do especially with our young kids. One of the things we love to do is not make them wait in lines more than 20 minutes or so, because that doesn't set the kids' mood, especially the young kids we have, their moods off right if you're just always standing in lines, right? So we bought Genie Plus, and we actually bought Enchanted Tales with Belle, which is very unlike us for our first selection. Usually it's a ride, but we were watching it and those were going faster, and we knew we didn't want to be at Magic Kingdom all day long. And my daughter, the first few times we went to Disney, it wasn't reopened yet, and my daughter really wanted to do it. So we thought, we'll just book that as our first one because that's actually going faster than some of the rides. So we did that and then bought a Tron Lightning Lane at 7 a.m. So my husband and I have never been on it. We were in the virtual queue during a Mickey's Halloween party with our kids in August last year, and our virtual queue number wasn't called until almost the park was closed at midnight. And we're like, we can't wait now. So we're like, we're just going to buy one because we have to ride separately. My oldest is just too short to go on it too. Otherwise we do rider swaps. So we're like, it's just easier not to wait in the queue line because you can still wait up to an hour. It's just not worth it, right? For our situation right now with little kids. So we did that at 7 a.m. and bought that as well as a Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, since my youngest, this was the first time we've ever had to pay for him at Disney. And so we kept joking, you've got to get tall enough to ride Mine Train and do all these, because he's seen us go on them, and he loves to watch YouTube videos of rides. One of the things we did before we first went was have the kids always watch those to understand what to expect at Disney, right? And so my kids love watching the rides, so we said, you've got to get tall enough, because then he could do Mine Train and Slinky Dog and Smuggler's Run that he'd never been able to do before. So luckily he was tall enough. We kind of forced his head back against us to make sure. We're like, he's tall enough, I swear. So we booked that as well at 7 in the morning. So we had all those lined up before we went to Disney. It was rainy, so it was definitely slower in the morning. Typically we are in the mindset of knocking out a bunch of little ones versus a big hitter in the morning, especially with little kids, because then you can go back and even hit those again with Genie Plus. So that's always how we tend to strategize it versus waiting our whole early entry in just that in one line where we'd rather pay. And obviously I think as the kids get older, we may change our minds a little bit, right? Right now, 2 little ones, this is how we usually plan our day. So we rope drop Buzz because we got there a few minutes before early entry actually started, when they started let you in through Fantasyland. So we did Buzz Lightyear Space Spin, got out, and then Winnie the Pooh. Well, Winnie the Pooh ended up breaking down while we were in line, and then they were running limited capacity, but we were still in line, and then they kind of stopped the people behind us. But it worked out because it started to really downpour while we were there, so at least we were covered and didn't have to worry about that. But we went through on that ride and then ended up coming out. And then we got a snack, and then we had Mine Train reservations, Lightning Lane. So we did that as well, and then rode some other rides like Teacups, Little Mermaid. And our Tron Lightning Lane was supposed to be in the morning too, but that, I don't know if it was due to the rain or just a ride closure, but we had a redemption pass because it did close down, which is fine when that happens. At least you get to pick again whenever you want to go over to that ride, right? So that is kind of how the morning happened. We also did Small World because we used the Lightning Lane. We had one free really quick as I was running back because everyone was running into Small World. I don't suggest always using a Lightning Lane at Small World, but it was, again, starting to pour. So we decided, okay, I'm going to quickly look on the app and got Lightning Lane so we could run in there and bypass that line. I will say it was one of the first times we had been in the parks when it was really rainy. And it's, as long as you're prepared and have that stroller cover, and my husband had an umbrella, it's not so bad because it is less crowds. It was crazy to look around and not really see anybody walking around. But in those indoor rides, of course, everybody's there to get out. So, but while we were in line, I decided to book a dining reservation for Skipper Canteen, which we had never been at before, but I knew looking at the radar that around that 11:30, 12, it was just going to come down. So I was like, let's just get out of the rain because every quick service is just going to be super busy with people trying to get out too, which it was really good. We had never, like I said, never been there before. I don't know if you've ever eaten at Skipper Canteen, but it was very good, and our kids ate well, which was good. It's always hit or miss with little kids.
Yes, yeah, we went there on our last trip, and we loved it.
Yeah, it was very good. Those, I don't know if you had those little bread bites.
We did not get that, but I wish we would have. I can't even remember what we got. We might have got the crab cakes for the appetizer.
Ooh, that sounds good too.
Good. Oh,
that sounds good. I know. So now for the next trip, I'm like, ooh, maybe we'll have to look again to see if they have a last minute reservation there too. It wasn't that crowded, so I think it is one of those places you can get sometimes those last minute reservations, but it was great. And we got margaritas and just sat in there, and it was just a nice way just to kind of reset. And when we got out, the rain was starting to leave. But right when, before our reservation, I booked a Pirates of the Caribbean Genie Plus, knowing that it was right near Skipper Canteen. So right when we were done, if it was still raining, you could run over there and, again, stay out of the rain. So we did that, and then we had our Belle, Enchanted Tales with Belle experience, which was really, really fun. And my daughter always knows Belle was always my favorite princess growing up, so she's so cute. So one of the reasons why she's like, "Mom, we're gonna do this because you love it."
Aww,
yeah, thanks, girl. So that was really fun. And then we went on Big Thunder Mountain because, again, the rain started to clear out, which was great. And then we did try the new Tiana beignets that were there just for a limited time, which were really good. And the parade was coming by just as about we were going to do that. And then we decided to exit Magic Kingdom. As I said, we don't always, my youngest is kind of hit or miss with fireworks. And again, just playing that, again, where they're tired from that first day, you have to watch that first and second day a little bit to make sure that they can make it the next few days. We left probably around 3. One of the things we wanted to do now that we were annual passes, annual pass holders, is we had never taken the monorail with the kids before because we're always a Skyliner resort family for the most part. So we thought, you know what, instead of taking the bus back to Riviera, let's take the monorail over to Epcot and then walk through. We did a couple of rides there. Since we had Genie Plus, we don't really need it at some of the smaller rides in Epcot always.
Right.
So we did Finding Nemo and Figment, and then hopped back on the Skyliner back to Riviera, and then ordered some Bar Riva food, which we just love. And one of the perks about Riviera in my mind is it has some of the best food
They have the best food. Like, even so just good. A quick grab food is absolutely delicious.
Yes. I dream about their food sometimes. And like Bar Riva, they have these wings that are not traditional wings, and they're so good, and they have this burrata salad. I mean, it's so good. Just the simple things. They're so good.
One of my favorite parts of having a park hopper is being able to kind of skip around the parks to get back to your resort.
Yeah, it makes it really fun. So we had never had that. We bought a park hopper the very first time we went to Disney with our kids because we were only doing 3 days. 3-day park, I should say. But with our kids being so little at the time, we were like, it's kind of tough to, again, they would fall asleep in the transportation to a different park and all of that. So the last trips in between, we hadn't done it. But I think our kids are at our better age where it made it really fun to hop around to all the different parks, especially being that it was so cold this trip. Having that flexibility just to even with annual passes to say, hey, we can't do a pool today, so let's just have a slow day at Hollywood Studios and watch some shows, and then we'll come back. Just having that is something we hadn't experienced before.
Yeah, park hoppers are great. I personally always have them, but when I have clients who have first-time trip or young kids, I just tell them, really think about it because you might not use it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much to see at the beginning, and others, your days can get a little crazy. That's our first time. The only day we actually used it was between Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. The first trip we went with our kids, but we still got to ride. Oh man, over like 10 or 11 things at Magic Kingdom before we went over to Animal Kingdom, which was fun. And I'm competitive, so every time I'm like, oh, we got this much last time. How many can we do this next trip too, right? Which makes it really fun. But I know some people want it probably slower, especially if it is their first trip. And like I said, our kids would just fell asleep on the buses in between. And it's really, oh, well, maybe we need to wait until they're a little older again to do this. Yeah,
and there's plenty to do at one park for a day. It's not like you're going to be bored.
No, definitely. Because now that we keep going, and I still haven't done everything. Right. It's impossible to do everything, right? It's just so big. It's always, but it makes it fun to go back because you always can try a new experience. We always try to make at least one thing every trip, something we haven't done before, right? To make it still a little interesting.
For sure. Hey, it's Jenny, just popping on real quick. Make sure to stay up to date with all things Disney news, all things Disney, Universal, cruising related by following me on Instagram at Disney Travel Tales. You can also find me on Facebook at Disney Travel Tales as well. If this episode is making you want to plan a Disney vacation, then I would love to help you. All of my services are completely free to my clients, so there really is no reason not to use a travel agent. Most people don't realize that when you go and book your own Disney vacation, you are already paying that travel agent fee. So why not take advantage of that and get all of those services that you're already going to be paying for? I would love to help you plan your next trip, so make sure to check the show notes for information on how to get in contact with me, my quote form, my email, and yeah, let's make 2024 the year you go to Disney. So did y'all just hang out at the hotel the rest of that evening?
Yeah. Early night, one of those nights where the kids were in bed probably by 8:30, and then my husband and I caught fireworks out on the balcony, right? So it was a good, relaxing night, especially since the next day we were going to go to Epcot. So we knew that was going to be an early morning. Again, we're more of that early entry rope drop family than we are having to stay the whole day. So we knew also it was good to get them to sleep. And my kids are so little and they're used to getting up for school that even when we do tell them, like, oh, sleep in, they're still up on vacation by like 7, right? But it's still good if they're in bed by 8:30ish on those nights where we can help it, and we're not at the park super, super late, so that at least we typically wake them up around like 6:30ish. And I try myself to get up before everybody else without the alarm. One of those where you're telling yourself, like, get up at 6, get up at 6, get up at 6 to like wake yourself up to get ready. Because once my kids start getting ready, they're like, we're ready to go. We want to leave. So I always have to try to get myself ready as much as I can beforehand. And we always try to pack like the park bags, or we'll sometimes make them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, things like that. But we'll make it the night before, so that we have to do even less in the morning, knowing how excited my kids get.
Oh, that's so
I'm sure you've been in those same situations.
Yeah, I mean, the less you have to do in the morning, the better.
Yeah, exactly. It goes fast, especially when you have to book Genie Plus and all that and stuff, and then get the whole family out. It goes very, very quickly.
Absolutely. So before we talk about your next day, let's talk about your room setup real quick.
Yeah.
So what's the sleeping situation, bathroom situation? Because these rooms are just a little bit different than your typical 2-queen bedroom.
Correct. And which is one of the reasons why we really like staying at Riviera, and more of the resorts are becoming the way that the Riviera is, in the sense where they have the fifth sleeper little pull down underneath the TV, as well as a Murphy bed. So my husband and I will take the actual bed. My 6-year-old this trip took the Murphy bed, and my 3-year-old slept in the bed underneath the TV that pulls out. And they just think that's the coolest, that the beds come out of the wall or underneath the TV. But it makes it really nice not having to share that bed with, because they're too little. Where eventually we'll probably be like, you guys are sharing a bed together, but they're too little. So it's usually my husband and I split up with them if you just have 2 queen beds, and it's just not as comfortable sleeping.
Right.
So we do really, really love having that fifth sleeper option in those hotels. And the other nice thing about Riviera is there's 2 showers, which is awesome. And I think as the kids get older, as teenagers, we even better that there's 2 showers. But even we typically throw the kids in the shower at night when we get home from the parks anyways. They're sweating or sunscreen all over, right? So it's nice to have 2 showers so we can kind of throw them in at the same time, then get them ready for bed, and then we tend to get, ourselves packed for the next day and ready once they're sleeping. So we have really come to get spoiled and love the Riviera setup with that.
Yeah, the bathroom setup is so fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Yeah, especially for families, just to, I mean, of course, 1 bathroom is doable, but to have that option where 2 people can be showering at the same time, it's the best.
It's really, really nice, especially even if we're not using the other shower, and we just use the big walk-in versus just the tub shower. It's usually where we're hanging or drying our bathing suits and all of that, so you can at least have a spot for that, even if you didn't want to use the 2 showers. So it is really, really nice.
For sure. Okay, so moving on to your next park day.
So the next day was Epcot. We actually didn't buy Genie Plus for this day, which is very unlike us, but we were going to do the extended evening hours, which is a perk you get for staying at deluxe resorts for 2 hours after the park closes. And as I had mentioned, that a lot of the rides at Epcot, we've always bought Genie Plus for Epcot, but a lot of the rides you don't need it. The main ones would be like Test Track, Frozen, and Remy's. And again, watching the wait times about a week before we were going, Remy's and Frozen, it was getting really busy. kept selling out before even 11. So I was like, well, if we buy Genie Plus, we're only probably going to rope drop one, get one ride, and the rest you don't need it. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to be there for 2 hours after when the park's closed, and we could probably ride things again. So we took that gamble. We bought an individual lightning lane for Guardians, though, because we do love that. And my daughter absolutely loves that as well. So we could do rider switch, so she can ride twice. She goes once with my husband and once with me. Then she's getting spoiled on all of our trips. We keep telling her, like, as my son gets older, she won't be able to go on things twice all the time. But it is really fun for her to be able to do those back to back. So we did, that's the one thing we did by just, again, not staying in that virtual queue with especially one of the kids who can't ride and you're there for an hour waiting. In the past, what we've done for those types of rides is try to plan nap time around it. So like when my youngest is in the stroller and tries to like rest and nap in the stroller while my oldest can go on the ride.
That's smart.
It's a great way to just kind of have that downtime that's kind of built in with it.
Yep.
So what we did was we rope dropped Remy's that morning. We got early entry was at 8:30. We got to the park around 7:45. But we were on the ride by about 8:34, so 4 minutes after early entry. And there was a good amount of people that were there even before we were there, but they let the queue in a little bit earlier than when it actually starts, which typically happens. But we were off the ride by 8:40, and at 8:40, Frozen was already at 60 minutes, and Remy's was at 105 minutes. So that was 10 minutes into early entry. So we, one thing is there was a cheer dance competition that week, but like the following weekend. So this was Monday, and that Friday, Saturday was a cheer competition. And in the past, I always felt like that crowd more came towards closer to the competition, not the whole week prior. So now that was a lesson known for me. So parks were very busy. We still got everything we always wanted to get done, but I could see that if you weren't used to kind of working, I don't want to say working the system, but working Genie Plus and knowing where you should go, how you may not have gotten, everything done. But that just validated why we weren't buying Genie Cluster that day, because we were like, usually we have in the past rope drop Remy's or rope drop Frozen, and you can go and do the other one with maybe a 25-minute wait. But the fact that 10 minutes in, Remy's was already at 105 minutes when we got off, we're like, this is crazy.
That is crazy.
Definitely a busy day.
Yeah.
So what we did then after that is we just ended up riding some other rides, doing the festival booths, doing some of the Festival of Arts, like Kids Chalk area, which my kids loved, walking around all of that stuff, doing the Figment scavenger hunt, which is really fun for kids to do if you're going and doing all that. Yeah. My daughter kept walking by any like art tent. I mean, like, there's Figment. Mom was like, no. They have to be like, it's not something that somebody drew.
Yeah.
It's got to be in a specific area. But she kept thinking she kept finding Figment everywhere else. We actually did take a break that day, left around 2-ish, knowing that we were going to have the kids up till about 11:30 that night. We went back to the resort and just put on a movie and let them kind of chill for a few hours. Again, nice perk of Riviera. It's a 10-minute Skyliner ride back to the resort, which makes it really easy. Especially love coming through that International Gateway entrance.
Yes, me too.
We're spoiled now. We're like, oh, we can only do Epcot when we're coming through.
I know, right?
It's really, really nice. So then we went back to, we already had our individual lightning lane, all that before we left for the break. Came back knowing how busy it was. Again, last minute before we left for our break round 2, saw that there were some reservations at the Mexican restaurant in Epcot. And so we, is it La Hacienda, I believe? Yeah. So we ended up, we had never eaten there, but I thought, well, if it's just as busy as it's been, we, again, need some place. Like, my husband and I can eat at all the food booths, but it's not as kid-friendly, right, to just do that. So that we just need to get them something good. My son actually ended up falling asleep at the restaurant, not eating. He was so tired. And so we got out, and there was probably an hour or so before fireworks at that time. And so we ended up just scoping out a spot over by Norway. And we had, again, we don't usually stay for fireworks all the time. A lot of times we're leaving as people are kind of lining up. So we've always seen that the bakery in Norway has always been slow. the people don't sit back there. And we're like, okay, well, next time we're here, we're actually going to test out our theory because it's never busy. And we're going to sit there. And we did. We got front, like along the little railing, and you sit there. And again, my son was sleeping still. And we're like, we don't want to be around the water too. That's going to be a rude awakening once those fireworks start and you hear it banging. So, and then we're right there to be on Frozen once early entry starts. Because early entry actually started at 9, which is when the fireworks started, which was interesting. So I was like, how is this going to work? Because I feel like people would still be in line that are non-resort or deluxe guests. So we waited about 15 minutes into the show and then decided to go into Frozen, which was a complete walk-on. Nobody was there, which worked out really good. But it was nice to have a seat. We don't, again, with my kids being hit or miss with the fireworks, it's okay that we weren't right on the water, but just having a seat, it was cold, so we got a really warm spiked hot chocolate, my husband and I, and sat there, and my youngest was sleeping. So it was just a nice, chill to sit back there, not being so shoulder to shoulder with everybody, too.
That's a great, little tip.
Yeah. And again, just being out of the crowds makes it, because most people scope out their spot for an hour at least, or half hour. So we walked up a half hour before and had the chairs right at the edge. So it was really, really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we went on to Frozen with a walk-on. We asked the kids if they wanted to ride that again and go to Remy's, and they said Remy's. So then we went over to Remy's, knowing that we may not have stayed the whole time because my youngest was already sleeping through extended evening hours. So we went over to Remy's, and we waited about 20, 25 minutes. I'd say no waits were really longer than 20, 25 minutes when I was looking at the tip board, which is a great perk when you're doing that. And there is another virtual queue you can get into for Guardians at night. We just didn't do that, knowing that, again, we only had 2 hours and my youngest can't go on it.
Right.
And we already had ridden it earlier that day. So then we went to Remy's. We waited about 20, 25 minutes. We got off, and it showed a 10-minute wait. So we were like, you guys want to go again? So then we went to Remy's again, and then we went on the Skyliner and made it home around 10:30. So we did duck out a little bit early, but it was still a nice perk that you just get from staying at those deluxe resorts. I think when we were there, it was Epcot's on Monday and Magic Kingdom on Wednesday. Obviously, that can change, but that's the way those extended evening hours worked.
Yeah, they are a great perk for just staying there. The only thing I don't love about the Epcot one is so many of the food and drinks shut down.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, I was shocked when I did that. Yes. I was like, where do I get a snack?
Right, exactly. Which is one of the reasons why I last minute was like, we need to have these kids eat something really well. And we booked that dining reservation because if we're expecting to hold them up later too and they're hungry, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, it was shocking to me.
Yeah.
But it
definitely.
is a great part to get a couple rides in.
Because even and my husband and I were saying too, because this was the first time we had done it, even though we've stayed at Animal Kingdom and Riviera before, we just had never done it. So again, our kids being so little, it was always harder. So now they're getting at the age where we can test it out a little bit more. Yeah. We said, even if you were going to do it just to skip the transportation lines from after the fireworks and just ride like one ride, at least you're doing something. So like when we stay at fireworks at Magic Kingdom, we always stay and go ride a few rides before we go wait for a bus to go back somewhere, because we'd rather go and ride a ride and walk back than go stand in the bus line for hour and fight that crowd out. So it's kind of that same mindset where even if you didn't want to stay there the full 2 hours or 7 to 8 hours, go and ride a ride and pass that big crowd of people leaving, and then you just get to walk on to your transportation, which made it really nice.
Absolutely, for sure. All right, so moving on, what did y'all do the next day?
So the next day was supposed to be our true resort day. We always have a resort day built in middle day, which is usually our pool day. But this day was 62 and 18-mile-per-hour wind. And I mentioned the heater was broken at the pool,
oh my God.
Which we actually found out earlier on Monday coming back from Magic. Or no, where were we? But when we ran into somebody on a bus, I think it might have been Magic Kingdom we were going, that had mentioned that the pool heater had broken since we had been in the pool. So we're like, oh, so we know that that's not working.
Yeah.
And so we told the kids, we'll still do the sleeping in, which again for them is 7 a.m.
Right.
Not really sleeping in, but at least I'm not waking myself up earlier too. So we were ready really to go, and we ended up going over to Hollywood Studios because it's all of our favorite park, and we thought, we don't want to buy Genie Plus for this day. We don't want a rope drop, right? It's still a relaxing day. We just can't be by the pool. And in past, we usually do like a pool and then have a dinner reservation or go to Disney Springs, which we love. But this trip, we were like, now that we have annual passes, let's just go in. So we ended up going over to Hollywood Studios and having the kids make lightsabers, but the cheap ones, not the expensive ones, which we had never done before, which they had a lot of fun with. For $29.99, they got to both build their lightsabers. One of the sweet cast members even made them take a Jedi oath that you want to take it. So my youngest was too oblivious and shy. My oldest was doing it. It was more like, don't whack people with it, keep it closed, all the cute things with that. But they had so much fun with that, and it was cool we knew we were going to go jumping ahead a second, but Hollywood Studios the next day, and so we could have that with them once again. We had to have a lot of conversations with my youngest, so you can't be in the stroller and have it open and just whack people while you're walking by. But it's great because I don't know if you've made them before, but they disassemble really easily. So for packing, made it really easily versus the $249 for the other real ones. And you can't take those apart. Little kids can't just hit them back and forth. It would break. So this is the perfect alternative to that when they just want to have something of a cool souvenir that's easy to bring home. You don't have to worry about them breaking. So that was really, really fun.
Yeah, that's we've never done that one. We've done the real one just because my kids were older. But that is a great option for little kids. So they can kind of still get that feeling they're building a lightsaber.
Yeah. But for a 3 and 6 year old, we're not getting you real ones.
Right. Absolutely not. Those would be broken and it'd be a waste of money.
Exactly. So I was like, one day maybe, but this is a good starting point.
For sure.
And so after that, we ended up we had brought in peanut butter and jelly and food for our kids. So we went to Baseline Tap House. So my husband and I got a charcuterie board and a pretzel and some beers and a margarita, and we had our food there so that the kids could eat, because they don't have a large selection at Baseline Tap House, but what they do have is not so kid friendly. So we knew ahead of time that that's where we'd want to go. Just again, keeping it just relaxed and hanging out. And then we went to the Frozen Ever After show, which we had never done. And both of my kids, my youngest now is liking Frozen too. So we were like, let's go and see. And that was really, really cute. So we did some shows. We did, my youngest loves cars. And so when we have done the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy before, but we ended up doing that again. And then we ended up just going back to the resort to hang out. We actually had a Topolino's reservation that night at 5:15, but I ended up canceling it. Again, reading their moods, I was like, they're doing good. I don't feel like pushing them so much right now. So what we ended up doing was we just went and had drinks up on the terrace with the kids. My daughter got a fun non-alcoholic drink. They had some toys. My youngest just loved looking at the Skyliner up there, and we had a nice night up there, and then just got food. Went and sat down at Bar Riva inside and had dinner there instead, because really we were like, they're getting tired, and what they would get at Topolino's is the marinara pasta my daughter loves, and that's at Bar Riva too. And we're like, okay, let's just we'll do another. We've done breakfast there before, we've never done dinner, so I was really excited. But again, part of being with little kids is just pivoting when you can kind of read their moods. So instead we did the campfire. We've never done the s'mores at Riviera. So we got to just kind of hang out around there, which ended some long games. Let them move around a little bit more than just keeping them at a dining reservation again, especially since we had the other two. And typically we try not to do more than 2 to 3 reservation sit-down table service a trip, especially with the little kids, because asking them to be good and sitting in a stroller and doing all this at the park all day and then be like, okay, now you just sit in a nice restaurant and not move can be asking a lot. So knowing that we already had those other two, we thought, we're just going to cancel the Topolino's one that we already had booked before. We had booked that at the 60 days out. The other two were kind of the spur of the moment for Skipper Canteen and the Mexican restaurant. So it worked out well, though. It was still like a very relaxed resort day. Of course, I got really bummed. I love having a true pool day, especially being up in Michigan, Midwest in the winters. You want that warm,
absolutely
that warm pool day. So
You're like, we
That
came
was
to
a
Florida
bummer.
for warm weather. What
Yeah,
the heck?
exactly. And when we got back, all of our neighbors are like, it was so nice here while you were gone. I was like, oh, because for us it was like 50s and some like kind of 60 days here. And I was like, no, it always happens, right? When you go on vacation.
Oh my gosh, that's frustrating.
So, yeah.
So where was the campfire at Riviera?
So down over by the water,
Okay.
kind of behind the pool, and then they would have like the movie at night as well. But there's some Adirondack rocking chairs just over there too. We're the only ones at the s'mores. Then the marshmallows, it's free. You can buy a s'mores kit if you want. We always joke with our kids. We sometimes force them to have sugar.
Yeah.
We'll be like, no, we don't want to eat it. Like we went to Coronado Springs one of the days we stayed there. We went to Three Bridges and we were like, let's get churros. It was our arrival day. And we're like, we'll let you have it before dinner. They're like, no, we don't want that. We're like, oh, we would have loved this as kids. We're like, who are you guys? So they were giving, the workers were laughing that we're like, no, we don't want a s'mores kit because they'll just eat the marshmallow and they don't want the chocolate or the graham cracker right now. And they're like, really? And we're like, yeah, I don't know. One day we'll be able to hold it over their heads of like, we used to try to force sugar down you.
And you wouldn't take it.
And you wouldn't take it. So, but that was really fun. The one thing, of course, though, you smell like a campfire the rest of it. So I had like my jean jacket on that I had the rest of the trip, and you're like, oh shoot, that smells. And obviously you can do laundry, just didn't have time to. And so some of those just kind of smelled like a campfire than the rest of the trip, but it's still really fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even actually thought about that until I was standing there.
Yeah.
That's fun, though. I've always wanted to do the campfire. We just never get around to doing it.
Yeah, it was very fun.
All right, so what happened the next day?
So the next day was Hollywood Studios, which I would say is our kids and ours favorite park. It just has such a variety. It doesn't have so many rides, right? But it has a variety where it has the good things for little kids as well as the older kids and adults as well.
That's true.
So we bought Genie Plus, obviously, for Hollywood Studios. I think you really do need it unless you want to wait in long lines.
Yep.
So we bought Genie Plus at 7 a.m. and booked Slinky and Rise of Resistance right at 7 a.m. We were able to scan into the park at 8 o'clock. And then our rope drop order that we've done for a few times now is always, because again, with little kids, this might change as they're older, but it's always Minnie, Mickey's Runaway Railway, then Toy Story Mania, and then Aliens. And then we tend to book them again with Lightning Lanes later on, because my kids just love them. And I think they're cute too. I mean, Aliens from the Saucers, I could go without, but I think the other two are really, really cute.
Yeah.
And we actually had all three of those done by 9 o'clock. So early entry was 8:30. We got on our first one at 8:25. So usually you can go, they're somewhat close to each other in the park, right? So you can kind of just go one by one. We actually have friends of ours who just went to Hollywood Studios yesterday, and I gave them our road trip schedule too. And even though it was President's Day, they had done those, and by 3 o'clock they had written everything at least once and had Tower and Mania, Lightning Lane's book, so they could do Mania once again. And everything was sold out when we were looking at the wait times for them, because I was like teaching them how to do it, which was, they did amazing, and they had everything booked, and all the Lightning Lanes were sold out by like 2:30 for everything. And the fact that they could still get all of that done is still amazing. So I do stand by. I love that road trip. They have two little kids, same ages. It's perfect when you have little kids. Obviously, you could go see it in Rise of Resistance. It tends to break down in our experience, and I've even gotten stuck on it before.
Oh, so that's fun.
It's always hit or miss, I think, if you stand in line. Again, if you have older kids, or even if you wanted to ride it twice, ride rope drop and then do individual Lightning Lane, I think would be really fun. But again, my youngest can't go on it, so having that rider swap, and the ride's about 20 minutes long, which is a great ride. It just takes about an hour of our time, just having my daughter being able to ride twice, and my husband not riding separately with it. But so what we did though too, once we were done by 9, we had a Slinky for later that night at 7 o'clock or 7:30. But my son was so excited to be able to go on Slinky that he was like, I want to go stand. And we're like, it's trying a 55-minute ride right now, like wait time. You guys are not used to waiting in line. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? And both kids really wanted to. We said, okay, it's a good test. We'll go. It said 55 minutes. We got in line at 9:11, but it was really only 34 minutes.
Oh,
I think,
nice.
Yeah, I think what helped is we got in line at 9:11. So before all the non-resort guests could make their way back to Slinky, and all the resort guests already rode it that wanted to stand in line, we were kind of in that sweet spot. So we ended up getting to ride Slinky then twice because we were off of that. And then after that, we decided we usually eat breakfast in the hotel room before because we just like to go once we're there. But we knew that my kids would need a snack. So we mobile ordered some Ronto wraps over in Gallus Edge and went and sat down there and had some coffee, and my kids had some snack while we were waiting. And then we did the rest of the day. We rode the rest of the rides. And then we did 4 other shows. I'm sure you experienced this too, but like your Hollywood Studios, your mornings are really heavy, and your afternoons are usually heavy with the way Genie Plus works and Rope Drop. Yep. So the middle of the day is like Indiana Jones shows, we did Muppet Vision, all those, and lunch in between. We even had a break at Brown Derby Lounge, which we had never been to before.
Oh, that's nice.
Let the kids have a snack there too, and just sat there around 2:30 or 3, just to have that little, again, find those little built-in breaks, whether they take naps or not, just finding that there. So we ended up riding Minnie and Mickey's and Toy Story and Slinky twice with those 2, and then Aliens 3 times because we did the Genie Quest at the end of the night again, and then it was a walk-on, so we just ran into it. So the only one we didn't do is Tower of Terror because we could have done that besides Aliens again. My oldest had never been on it, and it used to be my favorite when it first opened. When I was there, it was like 11 or 12 when it first opened, and I loved it. It was, because when it was MGM, it wasn't always my favorite park. As a kid, there wasn't so much to do, and so when that came, I was so excited.
Oh, yeah.
So she originally was like, I'll go with you, Mom. I'm like, okay. And then she kind of was like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I said, fine. We'll book Aliens. So we could have, and then once she changed her mind, they were all sold out for the day. So I said, well, now we can't do Tower, because of that. But again, where you could have ridden everything, and they do go a little faster, I think, because Rock and Roller Coaster is down. So I think the lines and the Genie Quests go a little faster because it's a little less dispersed with the rides, but even with the cheer competition going on and how busy it was. I think as long as you have a game plan kind of going in, it just proves that you can kind of do any park. And Disney always says you can only get like 2 to 3 lightning lanes, but if you know how to do it, you can get more than that.
For sure. I mean, I've never only gotten 2 or 3, but
yeah.
You just have to learn the system.
Leave, right? Yeah. Yes.
Well, I'm actually really impressed y'all did as much as y'all did because, when we were there, I noticed with Rock and Roller Coaster down, it really affects those other rides.
It does.
A lot.
Yeah, because that's what we were watching about the week before we left and going, wow, it's even selling. Like, because even our friends who were there yesterday for President's Day where things were sold out around 3, I mean, I would see the lightning lanes are probably sold out around 4:30 for us, and it was just a random, what was it, a Wednesday for us there, not even, a weekend or holiday weekend. And I know the cheer competition, but I do, as you're saying, I think that having the Rock and Roller Coaster down does make it a little trickier
for sure.
To get things. You really have to be on it.
Yes, you do. So did the park feel busy this day with the cheer competition in town? Yeah,
at times you would see, the big groups walking by. They'll have the groups together in numbers and walking by. And at times where you would have, luckily we'd have the lightning lanes, but you would see the wait times just dramatically jump up when you'd see a couple of those groups going. And you're like, ooh, if you stood in line right now, it would be that much longer, right? Because there's just huge, huge groups.
Yeah.
But definitely more crowded. We didn't stay. We love Fantasmic, and we the last time we were at Hollywood Studios, we ended up doing one of the Fantasmic dining packages with Hollywood and Vine, which we did, like, again, not having our kids sit in like a stadium for an hour or so to get a spot. And this time we didn't do that. And I kind of wish we did, but I also didn't. The only time there was the show was at 9:30, which was, so usually there's an 8 o'clock and a 9:30. This was just 9:30, which the park even closed at 9. And we were done with our last go around on Aliens at like 8:15, 8:20. And we could tell that the kids were getting tired and be like, we could go sit over there. But we also know that they're going to probably fall asleep. They're not going to make it a whole another hour and 10 minutes before the show even starts.
Right.
So we ended up leaving before Fantasmic. We watched a little bit of the other like nighttime show that they have with all the movies, which is cute, and then went on the Skyliner, which is always a bummer. But again, with little kids, sometimes you just have to pivot. And if we would have pushed them, I think it would have been rough. The next day we were going to Animal Kingdom. So again, just knowing what your whole schedule is and how you can kind of change from what your expectations really were.
Yeah, and then if you're like, oh, we'll stay for the show, they'll be fine, then you have to get home.
Exactly.
And that's not easy.
To be busy and all that. And it's that additional like hour then to get back.
And that's kind of when it can all start going downhill.
Yeah. Exactly. So, then they're not in bed till like midnight. And
and then you're like,
we've done plenty of times, but it's a long day.
For sure. Well, that's so fun. I can't believe how much y'all did at Hollywood Studios. I'm totally impressed.
Yeah, so we've done that 2 or 3 times now, really, that order. And like I said, having our friends do it made me go, yeah, it is a really good schedule. They got it done too.
Yeah.
So we'll go back at spring break, and we're like, this will be a test too to see what you can do in February to a spring break time. Will be interesting if we run the same, kind of rope drop and what we do. I'm curious to see what we get done. I'm sure we won't get everything done like we did before, but it'll be interesting to see what that crowd level is and how that impacts it.
For sure. All right, moving on. Your Animal Kingdom Day.
Yeah, so we knew that we were going to be at Hollywood Studios later that day. So we knew that it was going to be a slower Animal Kingdom Day and kind of our last full day. So we ended up buying Genie Plus for Animal Kingdom Day because we didn't want a rope drop and early entry, and early entry was 7:30. I mean, it comes early.
So early.
Yeah. By the time, and you're supposed to be there, 25, half an hour early. So if you want to get there at 7, you have to leave your resort at like 6:30, 6:40. It's really early. Yeah. So we decided we're going to do Genie Plus for that. And it's always we like Animal Kingdom a lot, but having a young kid who can't ride a whole lot, I mean, he can ride Naviera Journey, Safaris, and Triceratops Spin, which Triceratops Spin isn't even on Genie Plus. So he can get like 2 rides on Genie Plus.
So he can't even ride Dinosaur?
Well, because it's like 40, I think it's 40 or 42 inches. So you can do the Spin, Safaris, and Naviera Journey. So he doesn't get much out of it. We have booked like the meet and greet Minnie and Mickey before just to like use those.
Right.
My daughter can do Everest. She can do all of them there. But again, this is the first trip we had to pay for my son, and it's just one of those things you think about, and we're like, oh, what can he ride? But because we wanted that slower morning and not rush out, we knew that we still just needed to buy it, right? To just not have to worry about it. We also had a Tusker House dining reservation at 10:15 that I had booked at 60 days out. We always try to just do one character meal because versus having them always stand in line to meet the character. And we think that our kids do better because you slowly see those characters going around where it gets them a little bit more. My daughter's great with them. My son can be hit or miss at 3, right? Sometimes he loves it, sometimes he doesn't. But seeing them going and meeting other tables for them to come to you versus when you're in line and you just turn the corner and they're there. And sometimes it's like a startling, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, for sure.
And he doesn't know. So I think sometimes it eases. We've done both. But I think sometimes the character meals, he gets eased into it a little bit more because he just sees the interactions happening before he can get there.
Absolutely.
So we had never eaten at Tusker House before. I don't know if you had.
Oh, I love Tusker House.
Yeah, it was good. And we had 10:15 reservation. We were in there about 10:30, so we actually got one round of breakfast, and then it started to switch to lunch.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So we got a little bit of both, which was really, really nice. And usually we try to book our character meals, at least one of them on our leaving day, our departure day too, because it's kind of a way to make leaving a little less sad. So last trip, or 2 trips ago, last January, we did like Topolino's when we stayed at Riviera on our very last day before we had to check out and all that. But we knew that this was our last kind of full day and we didn't have another one booked. So we had done this one. And we, again, with my kids, even though they could sleep in, we were at the park by like 9:30ish, 9:15, because they still are just up and ready to go. So we had a 9:40 Naviera Journey, Genie Plus, which is always, it's not our favorite ride, but it's one of those that go really fast. on Genie Plus.
Yes.
So it always has to be our first booking so that we just kind of have it done and taken care of. So I don't know if you've experienced that too. It's always kind of the fastest one.
Yeah, and the line for that is ridiculous. I would never stand in it.
No.
Never.
No, I agree. And my son's always, it's funny, with hit or miss with like dark rides. Sometimes, especially when he was like last year at 2, he refused to take off his sunglasses on any dark rides, and then he would cry that it was too dark. And we're like, take off your sunglasses, and he wouldn't do it. So that was one of those rides too. So this year, he at least didn't have sunglasses on and liked it a little bit better. But we had that, so we ran over to our Tusker House reservation right after we did Navi River Journey. I was able to book a safari for right after we were done with Tusker House, which was great, which we always love. Last year when we were there, it was so sweet. We sat in the front row. We didn't sat in the back row, so we didn't get this time, but they gave little honorary safari guide cards to my kids when we got off, which was so sweet. And so then all the cast members, they move your stroller from the entry to where you get off for safari, and so they would see my kids with it, and they're like, oh, you're an honorary safari guide, and you need to go help when you're at home. And so my kids thought it was the coolest thing. So again, just those little like Disney magic, moments that you sometimes get.
Absolutely.
So then we went over and we took like the train over to Rafiki's Planet Watch, did some of the petting zoo. We didn't do the animation class, because again, with my youngest, he just probably wouldn't have said. My oldest probably would thought it was really cool, but we decided just to head back over, and we knew it was going to be a shorter day again, because this day was one of the warmer days from when we first landed, so we knew we wanted to run back and try to use the pool for a little bit. Another reason why Genie Plus really helped. So we did. We actually, our reservation after, our lightning lane after safaris, I went ahead and booked meet and greet Minnie and Mickey, even though we just did a character meal, but like I said, we don't have that much that my son can do, but that was not out until about 3:30. So we did the train, then did Everest, which we all love. We booked the Genie Plus for round 2 for that, and went on that ride. My daughter got to do it twice because my youngest is too short for. But then we went over to Dino Land and did Triceratops Spin, did the Dino Land games, the carnival games, which was really fun. So as one, my daughter and son both tried. Of course, my son wanted to play the one game. All the games you get a souvenir except for one of them where you're not competing against anyone, you're throwing the ball in. And that's what he wanted to do. So he was all sad that he didn't get it. They let him sit up on the counter and everything to throw it in. So then I had to go, right? And when it's where I felt bad because I was going against other little kids. And I was like, it's not for me, it's for my son.
Right. I promise.
I feel so bad. I promise I'm not trying to beat up on and win.
That's so funny.
I couldn't let my daughter just have one Minnie and him not have a Mickey, so I had to get him a souvenir too. And then we ended up, we still had about a half hour or so till the Minnie and Mickey meet and greet. And my kids just wanted to go to the pool instead of meeting with them. So again, one of those you pivot, right? And you just say, okay, we have it booked, but that's fine. We're not wanting to book anything else. We're just going to leave for the day. So we went back and was able to do the pool for a few hours before then going back to the room and really just getting ready for the night and packing up our stuff since we had to leave the next day.
That's so fun. So what was the crowds at Animal Kingdom like?
It's always slower, I feel like, in the morning. And I was actually, this is the first time we had gone since the park hopper, or when you could hop different parks, was the restriction was lifted, right? So I kind of expected it still to die down around like 2 where people used to park hop. I wanted to try to go to Mermaid Lounge. We haven't been yet. We always are there, and there's never the walk-up wait, list available. So I was really looking forward to we'll be able to do it. It never opened up. So it was busy, but I think at the beginning of the day, it's always slower pace. But like I said, I was expecting it to kind of die down a little bit, knowing that they close early too, around 6. And it kind of stayed consistent from like 11 until we left at 3, just consistent, steady crowds. But I feel like Animal Kingdom never feels as busy at times as other parks do. Like there's more ways you can just kind of and get away from the crowd. So
yeah, the new park hopping rules has kind of changed the crowd patterns. I noticed that too. Yeah,
because before you could anticipate it a little bit more, right? And now it's it just, you never know.
Yeah, like around 1 o'clock, people would start leaving to head to their next park, and Not anymore.
Nope. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so we're at your departure
Last day. Yeah. So we didn't have Mir's connector was not going to pick us up to about 3. We had a later flight out. Again, we get home super late. But again, just trying to get that full day, which I said sometimes we'll do a character meal. In August when we were there for both my kids, they're a month apart birthdays, so they instead of having a birthday trip, our birthday party, we said we guys could do a quick birthday trip. So we went to Disney for 4 days, and we did like Kate made breakfast for their birthday and stuff like that on our last day, too. And so we did Topolino's one last day, Kate made one last day. It's just a nice way to, when you're not in the park, but you still get a little Disney feel before you leave. But since we had park, not annual passes, we decided we were pretty much packed up from the night before. Again, letting the kids sleep in, but they were ready to leave early. We're like, we're just going to Epcot and get some breakfast at Leal and things like that and just hang out. Mm-hmm. It was, again, a little cooler and a little rainier that morning. The rain had just started to pass. But we ended up getting to Epcot around 8:20, which was still early entry, not intentional at all. So we asked the kids, hey, we may have to stand in line for about 20 or so minutes, but do you want to try to do Remy's? And they're like, yeah. So we went in Remy's. And when we came off of it, we ended up just going I got some breakfast stuff out of the Leal in France, and my husband and kids went to the American Pavilion to get Joffrey's coffee and a donut for the kids, and we just ate there. And there's something at Epcot, it's really those Frozen and Remy's where people roped up. So the rest of the World Showcase is so calm and just so nice to sit over there. So it was really nice. And then my youngest really wanted to do 3 Caballeros again, so we kind of rope dropped that at like 9 o'clock and went over. We had a boat to ourselves because nobody's rope dropping 3 Caballeros. So right. It was kind of funny. And then the kids wanted to go back to Hollywood Studios. So we quickly ran back to Riviera and brought our bags to Bell Services and then hopped on the Skyliner. We went over to Hollywood Studios again for a few hours, and we did, again, some shows, got some lunch. My daughter then was so mad that she didn't do Tower of Terror with me the other day, that she's kept being like, I just want to do it, Mom. And I was like, okay, but it's a 55-minute wait, and we don't have Genie Plus. So she said, that's fine. We got in line, and while we were in line, again, one of those huge dance groups came behind us, too, and that time went up to 110 minutes. Oh my god! And I was like, we can wait because I think we should be good because we were in line before, so we waited maybe 65 minutes. But it was a way big time. So to your point of like that crowd level quickly changed her rides when just big groups got in. And so I was texting my husband, and he's like, well, okay, well, we'll go do some other things. So my husband and my youngest, they went to the Disney Junior Dance Party and then got ice cream or got drinks and went to Beauty and the Beast show because it's right over by Tower of Terror. And then by the time you're done with that, they got ice cream, and we all ate some ice cream and then went back to the resort to catch our bus. So it was fun, but it was the first time my daughter truly had to wait in like an hour long. Yeah. Which she did really good about, but she wasn't a huge fan of Tower of Terror. I was going to ask. It makes me go up and like out of my seat a little bit. I was like, well, it's kind of the point of the ride. Yeah. I was going to ask. It is what it does, but yeah. So she was, and she loves roller coasters, so it was funny that, but yeah, she wasn't a huge fan, so I doubt that will be in our rotation when we go back at spring break.
I have some of my kids love roller coasters, but they don't like drop rides. It's that drop.
Yeah, so I think that was her thing. She goes, I don't like that I kind of got out of my seat. I'm like, well, it's kind of the point. So if you don't like that, then yeah, you're not going to like it if we did it the next time either. Right. So it was just a good, relaxing last little bit. The bus, like I said, came and got us around 3, and our flight was delayed a little bit, but we ended up leaving about like 7:30, 7:40 out of MCO to go back home. So
that's so fun. I love that now that y'all are annual passes, it just gave you so much flexibility with your trip.
It does. It's spoiled us, right? Because who knows if we'll like redo it. I think you just fall into that like wanting to redo it because you get a little discount, or we keep like, oh no, we may not redo it, but it's so nice to be able to just have that. Let's go get breakfast. Let's go do one ride and come back. You get spoiled for sure.
Yeah, and you don't have to feel guilty about just doing one ride or just going in a park to grab something.
Exactly. So it was very, very fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so I ask all my guests, what was your least magical moment of your trip?
So least was probably the weather because as you can expect, like typically January, February can be cold, but typically it can go from like 60s to 80s in the same week. And for the park, it's great. Like we've been there in August and you're just sweating. I'd rather take it be where you're in a little bit of a sweatshirt with some shorts on and just more comfortable for the park, but not having that true pool day, which is one of the reasons why we love the Rivieras, their pool especially, and that splash pad for the kids. So that would probably be like the least magical, but because we had the annual passes, it was really cool just to go watch shows at Hollywood Studios and still make the most of it with that.
Yeah. That's really fun. And typically it doesn't rain, I feel like, a lot in January and February in years past, but this year it was a wet January, February.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So we had all the rain gear and we kept watching the weather, but you're right, like we haven't gotten rained on, and this is the third time we've gone to this time of the year, and we haven't gotten rained on, and usually there is still a day that's like in the 80s or upper 70s, a couple of them. And yeah, this one was just the weather's just a bit colder, but it's still, like I said, it makes for good park days, maybe minus the rain, but the crowd levels are lower when it rains too. So yeah, it's okay.
That is true. So what was your most magical moment?
So there was a couple different magical moments. Obviously doing annual passes is something new for us, and that was very cool. When my daughter and son made the lightsabers, we went over to Galaxy's Edge, and Kylo Ren and the Stormtroopers came right up to them, and which was so cool because you have so many people that are standing around like wanting them to come up to them. My son thought nothing of it, and my daughter actually got a little nervous because he was like just talking to her, and then she was kind of scared. So even though we thought it was really cool, she didn't think it was the most magical. But we kept telling her, like, I know it's scary, but like you're really lucky. Like all these other people are waiting and they just walked right up to you instead, which was cool. But I would say the most magical was Enchanted Tales with Belle. So my husband, they picked him to be like a knight. I don't know if you've done it, but you tell part of the story with Belle, right? So they picked two dads to be the knights, and they hold little like paper signs over them, cardboard cutouts. And my daughter just really wanted to be Mrs. Potts. I don't know why, but so she got that role, and she was like, yes, I got to be Mrs. Potts. At the end of once Belle comes out and they do the storytelling, at the end they always pull up the kids to like everybody to clap, and they say, oh, Mrs. Potts and Chip. My daughter didn't get pulled up with Chip, and I was thinking, oh, that's weird, because I was sitting in the audience with my son, and I see the cast members talking to my daughter, and they pull her around back to where she'd walk up the aisle. I was like, oh, something's happening. And all of a sudden, she starts to walk up the aisle and gets to dance with Belle. Since the person, the little boy, was probably 2, was picked to be the Beast, didn't want to be the Beast anymore. And so the cast members asked my daughter, would you like to now pretend to be the Beast and go and dance with Belle and do all of that? And so that was really cool and unexpected. The one thing I'm so mad at myself, I thought I was taping it. And then I looked down and I was like, I didn't have it recorded.
Been there.
So then you're just like, no, my husband's up front. When did you catch that? And I was like, no, I didn't. But it was so neat that, she got to dance with her and do all of that too. And we met the live action Little Mermaid Ariel too, and at that character meet and greet, she taught my daughter how to crab dance side to side. So it was fun to say you got to dance with 2 princesses like during this trip, which was really, really cool.
And that was like right at the beginning of your trip too, so that's really sweet.
Yeah, so that was really, really neat and like hard to top, just seeing her being able to do that. And I was proud of her for just being like, okay, I'll go and do that too. Yeah. Like that wasn't my role. I'll just, go and now be center and dance with her. So it was very, very sweet.
That's so cool. I love that. I love it when it's the unexpected moments.
Yeah, exactly.
It usually is.
Yeah.
All right, Emily, was there anything else you want to share about your trip before we go?
No, I think, as we talked about, I think having flexibility on your trips are really important, but having that plan, at least at the beginning of your day, knowing that the rest of the day, especially if you buy Genie Plus, is going to be up in the air depending on what you get and what order you get, but having that plan at the beginning, especially if you know you want to rope drop early entry or you don't, so you can either start stacking lightning lanes or get there and know which few rides you want to hit out, I think can help make or break your day by just the way you're setting it up, with them having flexibility the rest of the day.
I 100% agree. That's great advice. Why don't you tell everyone one more time where we can find you on Instagram?
Yeah. Sure. It's Take 'em to Diz, TAKEENDIS on Instagram.
Yeah, and I will have a link to it in the show notes so you can check that out. And again, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap on today's show. As always, thanks for listening. Make sure to visit us on Instagram at Disney Travel Tales. If you're wanting to support the show, the best and easiest way to do that is to leave a 5-star positive review on Apple Podcasts. It's so easy and means the world to me. Can't wait to be back next week with you. So until then, this is Jenny, and may all your Disney travel dreams come true. Hi, this is Jenny, just popping on with some exciting news. I've started a Facebook group just for you. I'm really excited about this because not only will this be a great opportunity to get to know each other, but this is also a safe space to talk all things Disney. Members can share travel tips, resort tips, likes and dislikes, and the best part is this will give you an opportunity to talk to the guest on the show and ask them questions about their trips. I was trying to think of a fun name for us, and Disney Travel Tales Podcast Clubhouse came to mind. This is a private group, and of course, I will not allow anyone to be bullied or talked down to. I just want this space to be positive and fun. Check the show notes for a link to join, or just search Disney Travel Tales Podcast Clubhouse in Facebook. I can't wait to see you over there.